All right, welcome back to Shralp Stories. Thanks to everybody for tuning back in. Today we're going to analyze the technique of the final five and arguably the best surfers in the world at the moment. So these surfers train, they do exercises for better performance when they're in the water. They do all kinds of different things, but all of that doesn't matter as much once you're in the water. Most of these people have water time every single day for multiple hours a day as well. So there's a lot of practice in the water, and a lot goes into it after you surf and you go home and do what we're doing right here. You go through your footage, you see, oh, I put my hand here, I didn't like that, or I put my foot like this, that might have been why I fell. And filming yourself surf definitely helps out a lot when you're trying to get better at surfing. So we're gonna pull up here and check out. This is Caroline Marx. So goofy foot, originally from the East Coast, fabulous surfer. A lot of you might be familiar with her and watch her surfing frequently, but very, very strong and strong-minded, I guess, as well. But I like to compare her surfing a lot to Mark Occhilupo. Kind of butchered that name. Mark Occhilupo, Aki, great goofy-footed surfer from the 80s. And yeah, they're both low center of gravity, very strong legs, and very powerful surfers. So, here you can see her eyeing up a section in this first wave that we're bringing up. And that first little turn that she kind of did is just like a little check to see where she's at on the wave, see how much power is in the wave, and to kind of set herself up. Because when you're doing turns, you're going from high to low to carry your speed. If you stayed in the bottom of the wave, typically you're not going to have any speed. You're going to lose all of it before you even try to do your turn. So you really want to be weaving yourself through the wave to carry your speed and carry your glide, and then come off from the top down to the bottom, eye up your section and hit it. So that's kind of what she was doing here. A lot of people call it a check turn, I guess, just to like check yourself and keep your speed in the pocket. But if you watch it in slow motion, you can see her eyes are kind of like looking always at that next section that she really wants to hit. So she does her little check turn, she winds up, does one little quick pump to get her fins set in the water, get her rails line set in the water as well, and also get just a little bit of extra speed that she needs. So you'll see as she's coming up to do this turn, she squats way down super low, but keeps her center of gravity over her knees, which are also over her stringer line, all right in the center of the board. As she leans off the side over her tail and the inside rail of the turn, she's going to keep that stringer as like a vertical line cutting right through her body. So her board's going to tip with her as she leans over. And keeping most of her weight on her back foot, you can kind of see that her nose of her board is lifted out of the water a good amount. That's going to give you a lot more control over your turn and a lot of speed as well. And you'll also notice that she's very coiled up. I guess she's goofy, so it's kind of awkward. Being a regular foot, it's hard to like copy a goofy, but I guess back arm is going to be out over your toe side rail in this case because she's on her backhand, and her front arm is pointed up at the lip right where she wants to hit. Her eyes are focused right on that exact spot that she wants to hit as well. So she's coming off the bottom, coils all the way up, reaches past the point that she's turning to so that she can coil up and use all that speed and energy that she's generated off the bottom turn to absolutely detonate on the lip or demolish the lip. I don't know. I don't know what word would be better for that. But, all of your top turn energy comes from the bottom of the wave. So that's where you want to be really low so that you can extend out through your bottom turn, get a bunch of speed, compress again as you're coming up toward the lip, and then open back up again. So it's all compression, extension, compression, extension. Kind of confusing, but when you're surfing, you'll kind of see what I'm saying, and as you're watching these clips, you'll understand as well. But then as soon as she hits the lip, you'll notice she goes from this to this and coils herself around. So she's taking that energy and transferring it back around so that she can bring her tail around and the nose of her board as well. And she wants to hit the lip right in that curling spot of the wave, not quite where it's barreling over, but just right where it's vertical. You know, kind of like a skateboarder would use the coping on a ramp. They want to use that to put themselves into the air for skateboarding or whatever. But in this case, they want to use that to push themselves back into the wave rather than flying out the back. So, case in point of a textbook backhand snap right here. But let's move on. We're going to move on to Ethan Ewing, fabulous surfer from Australia. No idea how old he is, but yeah, anyway, great surfer, regular foot. He likes to ride, or I don't really know, actually. I haven't looked at his surfboards in detail up close, but he likes to ride, from what I'm seeing, thinner, narrower boards for more high performance surfing, and it'll sit a little bit deeper in the water so you can really push on your turns a lot harder, and that way throw more spray and have a lot more control over your turns as well. So you'll see here, Ethan kind of has that, some people call it the claw. I don't know if that's everywhere, but I've always heard it as the claw, and it's the back arm that's kind of hooked like this, and you'll see people reaching like they're trying to claw something. But he kind of has that claw and he uses it well. It doesn't look bad. Some don't look as great, but that's basically your leverage point, is your back arm right here. So if you keep it up, it looks really nice in surfing sometimes if you don't flail it around too much, but it also is a good spot to use as leverage. It's in the air, it's never in the water, but it's more about your shoulder angles, keeping your shoulders straight with the nose of your board and looking right off the tip. So that he's using that there to get a lot of speed, and you'll notice right after he does this first pump right here, he's really high up at the top of the wave, and he crouches down super low to where his chest is almost touching his front knee, and that's going to allow him to compress off the bottom turn, do that one little extra pump, just like Caroline did. Griffin does it. A lot of people do it these days. Some people don't like it, to be honest with you. Side note, Tom Curran wouldn't do it. Aki wouldn't do it. A lot of the guys back in the day wouldn't do it as much, Bobby Martinez included. But nowadays, I think a lot of people do it to just get that extra little boost of speed and get a little bit more control and board feel so that you can lay into your bottom turn at full capacity. So he compresses way down, does that extra little juicy pump, and then comes off the bottom. And if you pause the video right in the perfect spot of the bottom turn, you can actually see it almost looks like he's making eye contact with Connor when he's filming here. But he's looking right past where Connor's at, right at that lip where he's trying to hit it. Every surfer does it. It's essential to do a proper turn. And it kind of, a good way that I've always looked at surfing is you start with your head, shoulders, knees, and toes. You know, your head turns, your shoulders follow, knees follow that, and then your feet, and board come around with it. So first things first, move your head, coil up, and you'll use that coil of your body. When you come out of that coil, it'll flick your board around a lot quicker, with a lot more power and control as well. So comes off the bottom, nice and crouched down. He whips his back arm back behind him to give him that spring off the bottom to make a really quick bottom turn, and then comes up to the lip with a bunch of power, and he brings that back arm from sprung back behind him up back in front of him so he can still have that leverage and control over his rail on his top turn. But in this particular situation, he decided he wanted to do a layback turn, I guess. I don't know. Layback jam, something like that. You guys call it what you want in the comments. But he took from the bottom turn, springed back to get that flick off the bottom with a bunch of speed up in front of him to get the control right before he hit the lip. And then as he hits it, he'll lean way back off the tail of his board and bring that back arm down like he's reaching for his stomp pad or like the first part of his leggy or something. And then he'll like lean way back off his heels and flick his tail out in front of him and try to keep his board underneath him the best he can. A lot of your weight at this point is going to be transferred from the back foot all the way to the front foot, so you can release your fins and get a little drift going on, and also stay on top of your board, hopefully. You know, another really good one that does that is Clay Marzo. If you guys have a moment, you should look up Clay Marzo. He does these tail flicks that are very similar to this turn here, but he'll flick his whole board out in front of him and only have his front foot stuck on the board and kind of like body surf on his back on the face of the wave for a second while his fins re-engage in front of him, and then his pad comes up and meets his back foot, and then he'll get back up, which is pretty crazy. But there's another clip of Ethan in here as well, so we'll dial you in to more of Ethan surfing as well. But you'll see Griffin has the same kind of thing going on. It's not so much of a claw as Ethan does. Ethan's hand is kind of a little bit more down, but you'll see Griffin's is a little bit more straight. But same shoulder angle, same everything. It's just those little style points that you talk about in surfing. So you'll see same shoulder angles, same hand placement for the most part. And when he's doing his pumps, you'll notice that little check pump that he's doing is right before his bottom turn, just like Caroline and Ethan did previously. Like I said, everybody does it. But it's something I want to point out because it can help you a lot when you're trying to get speed to go into the lip for a turn. So in this case, Griffin's going for an aerial, and he does that little check pump, gets super low to the ground, and you'll see his back arm is kind of reached out in front of him, just like Tom Curran would have done, just like all the guys back in the day would have done. And he'll reach it down towards the water and bring it back behind him to give himself that shoulder spring so he can get the speed to get into the air here. Another point that I want to bring up that everybody did is they're all looking right at the lip, right where they want to hit it. You know, you really want to focus in on that exact perfect spot so you can know how much pressure you want to put on your tail or your midsection of your surfboard. So here, does the same thing Ethan did, previously mentioned as well, where he flung his arm back so he can get that extra little spring off the bottom turn too, and throw himself up into the lip. He has a lot of pressure on his back foot. You'll notice that the nose of the board is kind of elevated, so his fins are super engaged, probably flexing a bunch. His whole board's probably flexing a bunch in this situation as well. All that's going to factor into how much projection you're going to get off your bottom turn and spring you up into the lip. So you'll see he comes off here, still eyeing that same section, and as soon, just that millisecond right before his board hits, he'll take his eyes off of that spot and look at the next spot where his landing is going to be. In this case, he didn't land it, but still a great turn. And you'll see he goes from his arm behind him now to in front of him, just like he would be doing on a wrap or a snap or anything. It's kind of all the same ballpark, but he'll throw his back arm in front of him, and as soon as he finishes from the lip, he's going to transfer his weight towards the front foot more, and you'll notice, just like a skateboard, he'll move his front foot up just a little bit, so his board will go from this, and he'll kick it up to flatten it out. And he keeps it all right in front of him as he's doing his turn, because you got to figure, when the wave's breaking like this, he's moving this way. So if you keep your board like this, like more flat, it's going to blow away from you this way. Whereas if you keep your board in front of you this direction, I don't know if you guys can see that, but if you keep it in front of you this direction, gravity's going to keep it pushed to your feet. So he's flicking his body around to try to spin the rotation, and you'll notice here that his eyes are looking down at his landing spot, exactly where he wants to land. So everything's all set up, milliseconds, I guess, before it happens. But yeah, as he comes around, he brings his tail around, still looking down at the exact place he wants to land. And you'll notice as he comes around, his front foot kind of moves off the stringer line onto the side of the rail. So as he's coming down to land, that part of the board will catch first, and he'll end up slipping off eventually. So just some little error here. If it were me, I mean, it's really tough in the water. You can't analyze it as much as this, and everything's happening really quickly. But the mistake I think Griffin made in this situation was first not keeping his front foot over the stringer line, which is really important to do, and then also not moving his front foot far enough up, because the wave is cupped like this. So when the nose of his board's hitting, his tail's dropping. So that would make his back foot come off of the board as well, lose a lot of control. You can see he's trying to catch up to it, but it still moves off just enough. And then as he's landing, that front foot on the outside of his rail is catching in the water, and then eventually losing control and slipping off. No bueno. Should have had a racetrack pad. He might have landed it, honestly. But on to the next. Now we're on to Ethan Ewing again, the hammer. This guy's a freaking unit of a surfer. But you'll see he's kind of staying high here in the beginning of the wave, doing his little pumps to get some speed going on and get some control over his board. And he still has his arm just like this every time. All great surfers do it. It's a very controlled feeling when you're surfing. And, you know, if you slow down a little bit while you're on the wave, you can think about how you should put your hands, maybe crouch down a little bit more. Notice a lot of people standing up too straight. Just promotes a lower center of gravity and more glide. So he does his little pumps. You'll see here in his mid-face bottom turn, he's flinging his arm back so he can get some projection out of the bottom turn to give him some more speed. Lowers is a really mushy, gutless wave, so you need to get all the speed that you can. And then he goes from back here, springed up, coiled up, just like a shock or something would be, and throws it in front of him so he can get that whip around on his cutty. And he's leaned way over his heels. And you'll notice also that he's still eyeing up where he wants to be during his turn. So he was looking up at the top of the wave, and as he gets to the top, he's looking down towards the bottom of the wave where he's eventually going to end up. So as he's coming around this turn, you'll notice he puts a lot of pressure on his back foot to keep drive and keep speed, but I think he does a really good job of negotiating not too much on his back foot and not too much on his front foot where he buries the nose, but his stringer line is really close to being perfectly even with the water, which is a great way to do a cutback. I love looking at how much rail is engaged in the water. It also will help you come around from a turn because your surfboard has rocker in it. So as you lay it over in the water, that rocker is going to help you come around from a turn. Now, when you're doing things like this, you want to have a lot of speed going into it. So you just got to really push on your tail so that you don't lose all of your speed, and you push your tail around through the turn, and your nose is going to carry you through it all. And towards the end of this turn here, you'll notice that he is completely turned past the nose of his surfboard so that eventually, head, shoulders, knees, toes, your board's going to follow you around. So he's eyeing up the little lip line right here of whitewash, and he's going to come around, whip himself up into it, and tag the lip. Now, that was a pretty mental turn, honestly. The way he like comes off of it is so sick. How he like does the wrap, and he has like a little drift section right before he hits the lip, gets the nose all the way up, almost 12 o'clock. That's like about as textbook of a cutback as you can get, I'd say. That was pretty rad. But it's good filming too. Connor's a legend. So yeah, you'll see at the end of that cutty, he throws himself up into the lip. He's all coiled up from that whole cutback, looking over his front shoulder, and then throws it up into the lip, starts looking up a little bit, and then coils it back again. It's all about twisting your body so that you can use your muscles to bring it back straight, and it's all going to release and have a lot of power. So tags the lip super hard here and comes off of it back in the foam, back in the power source, and ready to do the next Shralp. Now we have Griffin Colapinto again on the backhand. You'll notice again, I like to point things out over and over again so that it really gets ingrained into your head when you're watching this. But just little subtle techniques that a lot of people miss out on is that back arm. Back arm's still up and over the shoulder. A lot of control, a lot of power. And the front arm's guiding where he's going, and he's also eyeing the section, again, every time. Another good point to look at right here is his knee angles, because this is a great view of the actual angles of his knees. And you'll notice that the back leg is kind of bent down and in. Um, Obviously, and I'll stand up and show you. You're not going to be able to bend your knee like that way. It doesn't work like that. So to really get the good angle, you want to twist your feet towards the front of your board a little bit, and then you'll be able to really bend your leg all the way down. I'm not super flexible, so my ankle kind of doesn't do that. But that gives you a lot more power and a lot more ability to get super low down to your board. Um, so you'll notice here he's doing that very well. All of his weight, or most of his weight, I should say, is over his front leg right here so that he can keep gliding and keep the speed going as he's coming down to the bottom of the wave to set up this turn. And he coils up and he points his front arm at the top of the lip as he's looking at it. And then as he hits the lip, you'll notice he's like, kind of weird to talk about a dude like this, but he's kind of sticking his butt out as he's coming up into the lip, but that's giving him a lot of control over his toes, and it's going to allow the tail of the board to drift freely and his fins to release as well. So as he comes around, he kind of loses his fins in the lip and he drifts maybe a little bit more than he's thinking he was going to, it seems like, to me at least. And he's crouched down so low that he's actually able to put his front hand on the deck of his board to just give him that extra little bit of stability and control as he's sliding through the wave. It keeps him going. So he does a little fin drift there, releases his hands, and he's already ready to go back into the next turn. Ethan Ewing with another major hack. Same things that you could look at here, you know, flicking his arm back, throwing it back up over his shoulder, and putting a lot of weight on the tail of his board there to give him the drive and the speed through the turn. And at the very end of the turn, you'll notice here, he flicks his tail just a little bit so that he can get a little bit of drift and get his board from pointing back to the wave to actually up like he did that cutback earlier. So he'll push his fins around and slide and put all of his weight on his front foot so that he can get a little bit of fin drift, a little extra style point right there. Also, after he does that wrap, he goes from his shoulders being twisted this way to when he flicks, he's already turning his shoulders back the other way so he can eye the next part of the wave where he wants to do his next maneuver. A lot of control there. And also staying very low, just like Italo Ferreira is right here. Guy's a little rubber man, just like Gumby. But staying super low off his backhand, same thing, shoulder up, arm up, eyeing the section he wants to hit, coming off the bottom, coiling up, twisting his body all the way back around, and looking down. So when these guys do vertical snaps like this, they're not really looking at the lip this way, they're looking at the lip that way. So if you look up towards at the top of the wave, your whole body is going to follow you around. So he really wants to make sure that he can get the vertical snap and the fin drift. And you'll also notice as he drifted his fins there, he did the same thing that Griffin did on his backhand wave, where his front arm actually touches the deck of his board, so he gets a lot of control out of that and stays upright and doesn't fall over. But great surfing there. And as he comes back around, he's instantly, no hiccup, no hesitation, no check turn, none of it, straight into his next bottom turn, coiling his shoulders up again. And this one wasn't so vertical because the wave wasn't so steep. So this time he did just like a little cutty hack kind of deal. Big fan of Italo, great surfer, kind of like a skateboarder. Pretty cool how much aerials he does and how quick he is on his surfing. So hope that kind of tuned you guys in a little bit to some things that I like to look at when I watch pros surf. I think you can slow down this video as well in the settings button right up here, and you can slow it down a little bit so you can watch everything in a little bit slower if you wanted to, or pause it and kind of just think about it. And also, if you really want to get into it, you could kind of watch the surfing that they're doing and mimic it a little bit in your carpet out front, or whatever. If you got hardwood, I don't know what you got in your house, but you can mimic their surfing a little bit, so that way you get muscle memory, and then eventually when you're in the water you can do the exact same things or close to it. So keep on practicing, keep watching surfing, watch where their hands are, their feet, where they're looking, and go have some fun. Don't take it too seriously because surfing's all about having fun, and that's something that's been lost in this day and age. So, also want to say congratulations to John Florence on winning his world title. It's been a gnarly couple years for him with knee injuries and getting married and kids and all kinds of crazy stuff. So for him to come out, win a world title at Trestles, that's pretty insane. So very inspiring stuff, John. You're a legend. Also, congratulations, Katie Simmers, absolute hammer of a surfer. I wish I had some footage of her from her practice surfs, but unfortunately she wasn't out this morning. So pretty cool that a Californian won the world title for women's, and Oceanside local just down the street from us here in Dana Point. Pretty epic stuff. Always really liked her surfing. Her brother Timo is a great surfer as well. And yeah, look forward to seeing what she can do in the future. So anyway, go have some fun. Thanks for tuning back in, and check back in next week for another episode. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit more about hands. So check you guys later. Drop a comment, like, subscribe, do the whole deal. Shralp Stories. We love you.